Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us. I'm just giving a look here because hearing some background noise. Okay. Thank you for joining us for tonight's presentation on I'm blanking on the title now, but it's basically maintaining good nutrition. I have it here on my phone. Um, Healthy nutrition during these challenging times. I'd like to thank Shannon Gononsky and Devora Wechter, both of whom are registered dietitians, for agreeing to hold this panel for us tonight. If you have questions for them, please do put them in the chat room. And once they are done with their initial part of their presentation, they will go through the chat and answer questions. There are those who are just joining now that I'm admitting as we speak. So I'm just going to say that one more time. If anybody has questions, please do put them into the chat room. And once Devora and Shannon are done with their presentation, they will happily go through the questions that are presented there. At this point, I turn over the meeting to the two of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming tonight. I'm just going to give a brief outline as to what we're going to speak about tonight, about nutrition in these very challenging times. I felt that it was very important to touch on immune-enhancing foods, the foods that are helpful when you're feeling ill or when you're trying to keep from feeling ill, supplementation and immune-enhancing supplementation. Yes, we are going to touch on what's going on with COVID-19 and supplementation as well. We're going to talk about snacking, healthy snacking, because right now, I don't know about you, but when I'm at home, binge eating is just something that you feel like you have to do, stress eating. So proper snacking. We're going to talk about menu planning, other challenges such as location of eating, and then we're going to open up to some questions. Okay, so I'm going to give it over to Devora. Oh, actually, no, I'm doing it first. Devora's going to do supplements after me.
Okay.
I am first doing immune-enhancing foods and anti-inflammatory foods. So this is going to help people who even have aches and pains and things like that in their joints. Anytime that you start feeling sick and you start feeling aches and pains, foods that actually help against pain. So one of the foods that, I was looking at foods that were unusual, foods that people might not know about. One of the foods that helps fight pain and help reduce it is ginger. So if you were to drink ginger tea, it has an analgesic effect. You don't have to take Tylenol. You can take the ginger. You can see if that works. You can actually use fresh ginger as well. But I do recommend doing the tea because then it has a hydrating effect as well when you're not feeling well. And then another thing that I saw was that raw almonds and walnuts, which are also a good healthy snack, which we will incorporate into the snacks later, also have omega-3 fatty acids. And omega-3 fatty acids reduce inflammation in the body. So it's a healthy snack to reduce the inflammation in the body, to help fight inflammation and to help fight illness. Now, a lot of people have been talking about flaxseed too. So this is another omega-3 fatty acid component that you can find in these foods. One of the things that you can do is you can take the oil and you can put it on your salad. And that actually has the anti-inflammatory effects. You don't want to cook with it because then it has the opposite effect and it increases the pain and inflammation. So you want to use flaxseed oil cold, not heated up. You could also use the powder that's ground up, and you can put it in hot cereal, oatmeal, whatever you want to put it in. But again, don't make it too hot because then it will have the opposite effect. Now, turmeric. Really great yellow spice. Put in Indian curries, put it on pargiote, put it on your Israeli couscous. It has a therapeutic agent called curcumin, which produces an anti-inflammatory effect, and it is actually really helpful when you're having a real acute inflammation. So that's another really good source of nutrition. Now, one of the things that we hear about a lot is salmon and fatty fishes, mackerel, herring. These also have omega-3 fatty acids that help reduce inflammation. They even help with pain. They help reduce the pain. And then, lo and behold, cayenne pepper. Who knew? You put a little cayenne pepper, it turns down the heat on the inflammation, it turns up the heat in the food, but it turns down the heat in your body. So those are a few fun, interesting foods that I found that maybe people didn't know about. I mean, people have heard about salmon and fatty fishes, but the turmeric, the cayenne pepper, snacking on walnuts, who knew? That could help you reduce inflammation and help you get through an illness. So I'm going to give over to Devora, and she's going to talk about supplementation and helping boost your immune system through supplementation.
Okay, thanks, Shannon. So Shannon talked about some foods that you can use for immune enhancing and anti-inflammatory properties. But I wanted to focus on some vitamins and minerals, particularly the ones that are in the news right now as it relates to health and maybe even COVID. So the first I wanted to talk about was vitamin C. Just a basic rundown, it's an essential vitamin. It works in many ways in the body. It's important as an antioxidant. It contributes to immune function in the body. It's important for wound healing. So main sources of vitamin C, examples would be like citrus fruits. Everybody's familiar with tomatoes, which some people think as a citrus fruit, Brussels sprouts, green and red peppers, cantaloupe, strawberries, potatoes, broccoli. You can also find vitamin C in a lot of fortified foods. If you read the labels, sometimes they fortify foods with vitamin C. Because the vitamin C is water soluble, you have to be careful if you're cooking, particularly like the fruits or vegetables, because if you cook them in a lot of water, you could reduce the vitamin C content. So like steaming might be a better choice, or even microwaving as opposed to, boiling. So the Food and Nutrition Board puts out dietary reference intakes, and their recommended dietary allowance for vitamin C is 90 milligrams for, I'm doing adults, 90 milligrams for adult men and 75 milligrams for adult women. And actually, because of its antioxidant property, if you're a smoker, first of all, stop. But if you're a smoker, you should have an extra 35 milligrams a day to counteract the pro-oxidant actions of smoking. And then the Food and Nutrition Board also put out the upper tolerable intake level, which is how much they feel you can take a day and be safe. That's 2,000 milligrams or 2 grams a day. So basically, what's common knowledge about vitamin C? Most research shows that if you take vitamin C in amounts about 200 to 250 milligrams a day or more on a regular basis, then you're more likely to lessen the severity and the duration of a cold. It doesn't prevent a cold, but it can lessen the duration and severity. But that only works if you're taking it regularly. The research does not show that if all of a sudden you get a cold and you pop a vitamin C, that it's going to make a difference. So usually people during cold season will start taking vitamin C to supplement in the hopes that if they do develop a cold, it will be less severe. So researchers now are investigating whether or not vitamin C is helpful as it relates to COVID. Some hospitals are giving really high doses of IV vitamin C because vitamin C plays a role in the inflammatory response, and because levels of vitamin C can reduce and drop when you're critically ill. They feel like maybe giving the extra IV vitamin C can be helpful. There's actually a hope that if you take the vitamin C, it can lessen your ICU stay, shorten the duration of the illness. Obviously, research is still ongoing. They don't have any proof that this is true, but that is one of the areas they're researching right now. There's actually a study that's going on that giving people who have COVID oral vitamin C in combination or separate from zinc to see if whether or not taking those things also lessens the severity and the duration of the COVID. I think the earliest they think they might have results on that would be September. So we don't really know. Certainly, if you wanted to take vitamin C, I wouldn't exceed the upper tolerable intake level of 2,000 milligrams or 2 grams, and definitely speak to your doctor about it first, because it can interfere with certain like cancer medications. And if you have kidney problems, some research shows too much vitamin C can potentially lead to kidney stones. That's not 100% confirmed, but just check with your doctor. The next one is vitamin D. So vitamin D is famous for calcium absorption and bone health, but it's actually more recently been found to be important for immune function. There's not actually a lot of natural sources of vitamin D in food. It's in fatty fish, like what Shannon mentioned, salmon, tuna, fish liver oils, egg yolks. But the majority of vitamin D that Americans consume in their diet comes from fortified foods, specifically milk. Not all dairy is fortified with vitamin D. Milk is, but you should check your yogurts and cheeses to make sure that they're also fortified. But a lot of products now are fortified with D, separate from just milk. Breakfast cereals are, and you can see that on the label as well. And then basically another thing that makes vitamin D very special is that you can actually make it through sunlight. So I don't know how many people are going outside. Obviously you're social distancing and being smart about how you do it, but assuming you can go outside and it's sunny and your face is uncovered and your arms and your legs, your neck is uncovered, they claim about 30 minutes a day, twice a week should be enough to get adequate vitamin D. Of course, if you cover yourself with any kind of sunscreen, it reduces the ability for the UV light to hit your skin and convert it to vitamin D. So that's, you know, I think if it's higher than SPF 8, it may or may not work. So some people like sit outside for 20 minutes, then put their sunscreen on. The dietary reference intakes for vitamin D is for adult men and women between the ages of 19 and 70, it's 600 IU. And then for adult men and women over the age of 70, it's 800 IU. And then the tolerable upper intake level is 4,000 IU a day. So researchers right now are exploring the possibility that maybe there's an association with vitamin D deficiency and mortality rates with COVID. They're wondering if maybe that's why some countries have higher mortality rates than others. To be perfectly honest, most of you, if you go to the doctor and get your blood work checked regularly, probably have your vitamin D levels checked. If not, then you should ask your doctor to check your vitamin D level. And if it's low, you should be supplementing. And most doctors will tell you to supplement if it's low. So certainly right now, we don't know if vitamin D is going to have any effect on mortality, but if you're deficient, you should be supplementing. And then lastly, the one I want to talk about, they're talking about is zinc, which is a mineral. Zinc is important in immune function. It's important in taste and smell sensation. It's also important for wound healing. So some of the sources of zinc in food is red meat, poultry, beans, nuts, whole grains, fortified cereals, dairy. One of the biggest sources of zinc is oysters. Oh, well. The plant sources of zinc have phytates in them, which makes the zinc less bioavailable to you when you eat the food. So if you're a vegetarian, you're not eating any meat or poultry, you have to be aware of the fact that you might have to eat more of these foods to get it, or perhaps do a supplement or a multivitamin with mineral. There is some research in general, not related to COVID, that supports taking zinc lozenges. Hi, Mom, she swears by it. If you take the zinc lozenge within 24 hours of symptom onset, it can lessen the severity and the duration of the cold. But you have to take it within that time frame. There are also like nasal zinc sprays and gels. Those are not recommended to take because they supposedly can lead to long-term loss of smell. So some people are speculating that because the coronavirus, COVID is another virus, that maybe taking the lozenges at the onset of those symptoms could also potentially mitigate the duration and the severity of the disease. Obviously, it's not yet proven. And as we said before, with vitamin C, there are clinical trials that are ongoing to determine if taking zinc alone or in combination with vitamin C can help reduce the duration of COVID. So in my opinion, I think that assuming your doctor doesn't have a reason not to, everyone should be taking a multivitamin with mineral. It's a great way to hedge your bets for people who aren't necessarily having enough variety of fruits, vegetables, whole grains, dairy. That way they can kind of hit all their bases. And then if you wanted to take the doses separately of the D, the vitamin C, the zinc, again, check with your doctor, because of course there's always possibilities of having overlaps. But in this way, you can, like I said, the vitamin C, I certainly wouldn't exceed the upper tolerable intake level. And I think that same with the vitamin D. And I think that it's, not unreasonable if you wanted to try it. But again, there is no real documented proof that would make a difference in terms of COVID. So that is the little hit that we're talking about in terms of vitamins and minerals as it relates to what's going on now. I take it back to you, Shannon.
Well, I just thought it was very important to touch on that, because there were a lot of people out there in the news talking about these supplements, talking about taking them at home, self-medicating with them. I think it's important to know that there are limits to what you should be taking, that there are safe limits, to what you should be taking, and also that this is a new science. COVID is a new science. So we don't have any definitive research saying, yes, this works. We have research from before on viruses and the common cold, and we have research from before that we're applying to COVID right now. It doesn't hurt, as Devora said, it doesn't hurt to be taking these supplements in the way that she described to help you get through cold season, virus season, and right now, get through what you're going through right now. The other thing that we want to do is we want to kind of switch gears. We've sort of spoken about science, immune enhancing foods, everything. We want to talk about the issues that people are having at home in quarantine, the issues people are having with feeling like they need to eat more. They're stress eating. How do we have proper nutrition at home while we're in quarantine? And one of the things that Devora is going to talk about right now are good snack options, because it's one thing to sit down and have a meal, that's great, but everybody needs to snack in between meals too. You get hungry again. So what are good options for snacks? And I'm going to give it over to Devora now.
Okay. So really what I'm going to suggest is not something exotic. It's stuff you guys already know, just to be reminded of just some healthy snack options. And in fact, as I go through the list, if anybody has amazing snack ideas that they want to share, please feel free to post it on the chat. I don't think this is an exhaustive list, so anybody who's gotten creative already, please share. But you could do things like hummus, do it with dips with whole grain crackers, or you could make the pita if you're really looking for some kind of the hummus if you're looking for a quarantine activity, or you could buy it from the store. You could actually do trail mix. You could do homemade trail mix. So you can actually put in what you like: nuts, dried fruits, cereals. If you're desperate, a little bit of chocolate, preferably dark, but who likes dark? Then you can do like salsa with whole wheat chips or crackers. Of course, the old standard cut up fruits and vegetables, preferably if you cut it up in advance, so that way when you have a hankering for something, it's already available. You could do fruit or vegetable smoothies. You could do berries, bananas, melons, pineapple, kale. You could do fruit with vegetables by itself. You can mix it in with soy milk, low-fat dairy, yogurts, as a way to kind of just have something to keep you, full that's healthy. You could do celery with low-fat cream cheese with peanut butter. You could even do like those cheese sticks. If you have kids, you could make skewers with like fruit and a cheese stick. You could do vegetable soups, and you could make that also in advance and freeze them in portions, and it's something to kind of keep you full. You could do those blended like all fruit popsicles. You know, you have them in the freezer and you pop it out. It's getting warm out. Melon balls, cottage cheese, air pop popcorn, Shannon's favorite, apple slices with peanut butter. So these are just things you guys know about, but have to be reminded are good things to have. And if you have them available and ready for you, then you're less likely to grab something you shouldn't. Okay, Shannon.
So that actually is what we're going to be touching on right now, is how to properly plan so you don't find yourself stress eating, binge eating, and all of that. One of the things, and this is what you should be doing all the time, doesn't even matter if you're in quarantine, you should plan your menu for the week. That's the first thing that you should do to make sure that you don't overeat and eat beyond what you need to plan for. And actually, it's a really good, Devora and I were talking about this, it's a really wonderful activity to bring the whole family into. My whole family is involved with menu planning. We plan the menu for the week. We sit down, we talk about it, who wants what, who wants this, who wants that. And it makes it actually so there's no control issues. You know, they don't say when they sit down in the meal, oh, well, I don't want that. You know, they wanted it. They told us they wanted it. The other thing you want to do is you want to take the menu you've planned and you want to put it into a list for shopping, so that when you go shopping, you go with the list from your menu. And Devora was talking about right now, sometimes you find when you go to the store, sometimes they don't have what you planned for. So you might want to have some backup plans, because when you go to the store, you're not going to run to 5 stores anymore. You're going to only try to go to 1 or 2 stores because there's a concern about exposure going outside too many times. That's another reason to plan is you can go to the supermarket one time, have a list for the week, and you're done with the supermarket shopping. You don't have to keep exposing yourself to going to the supermarket over and over again. Because quite frankly, it's a real pain right now. The way that I mean, 20 minutes in Cedar Market. How do you do that?
Right.
And then the other thing we talked about was portion control the food ahead of time. Try to take your snacks for the week that you plan into your menu and put them into bags. Or as we talked about, making the soup ahead of time, make it a family project on Sunday and make the soup and put it into portions, put it in the freezer and take it out in the morning for your snack for that day. Soup is a really, really good snack because it really fills you up and it makes it so that you don't eat more later. And it also is very low in calories, but it's really fills you up. The other thing that you need to do is you need to think about the location of, say you're working at home, the location that you're working from. I know that not everybody is able to do this, but if there's any way that you can make your workstation be a little farther away from the refrigerator, that would be preferable, but I know that not everybody has that availability. But if you can do it, try to do it, because you're going to find that you're going to go to the refrigerator less often. Now, the other thing is, as far as just activity and not just sitting all day, if you're working from home, you need to get up, you need to move around. I know you can't get to the gym right now. It's very frustrating, but at least you can get up, move around a little bit. And I have a friend who I think might actually be on right now, who got herself one of those little bicycle wheels that you put underneath your desk, and you can actually move your legs a little bit. So I thought that was really fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. And of course, there's work at home videos and things like that you can be doing. Workouts at home. You don't have to feel like you're not doing any activity. We're mainly talking about nutrition here, but but I felt like I needed to touch a little bit on not just sitting and actually getting some activity in. So
Absolutely.
that's about it. And you know, we talked about incorporating immune enhancing foods into your diet, supplementation, the importance of sticking to a meal plan, the importance of including your whole family in that meal plan, and actually making sure that you get up and move around a little bit and stay away from that refrigerator and plan out your snacks and make them healthy choices. Okay.
All right.
Do you have anything else to say, Devora?
No, I second, third, fourth, whatever you said, I agree. You know, I really think the key in general and all the time in life is planning, but even more so when you have no routine anymore and your routine is like all the way up in the air, that planning becomes super important, because particularly for people who may be working from home, there's no separation anymore of places. It's all the same place. So everything sort of kind of blends and bleeds into itself. So you really have to take the time to kind of set up as much as you can a routine, so that way you can try as little as possible to deviate from what you know you should be doing anyway.
Right. You need to set yourself up for success is what
That's
you
right.
really need to do. If you stick to your menu and you even time it out, I'm going to have my snack at 10:30 every morning, and it could be a variety of snacks. It doesn't have to be the same thing every day. If you time it out, you have something to look forward to instead of feeling like, oh my gosh, I ate something again. I mean, like you have it timed out, and I know I'm going to throw out a science word right now. It's good for homeostasis of the body. It's making sure that your body has certain nutrients in it on a regular basis throughout the day. So it just feels better. It's proper nutrition.
Okay.
Okay.
I see there was a question if we could put details. I guess, Aliza, maybe we can kind of do like a summary of some of the points Shannon and I could put together. And if you want to put it on an email, I mean, I don't object to that. You
Sure.
know, that's fine with me.
Send it to me, and anybody. My email is very easy. It's alizafishman@gmail. You see the spelling of Fishman on my little thumbnail here. Don't forget the C in the fish. Feel free to, once they send it to me, I'm happy to send it to anybody else who requests it.
Okay.
I think it is.
And the recording will also be available on the Shul website, by the way, at bethaarontorah.org.
I think it's important for us to actually put out the numbers that Devora gave you if you weren't able to jot them down as far as the supplementation was concerned.
Sure.
We just don't want you to
overdose.
Not
no OD.
all of a sudden you're there. You're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to use. So
no problem.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Shannon did mention the importance of hydration when she talked about her ginger tea, but yes, you have to make sure you're drinking as well as eating healthy as part of being, part of following a healthy diet is to make sure that you drink enough fluids all day. So fluids are, could be water, seltzer, teas. I mean, they all kind of count towards fluid intake. So unless you're on some kind of fluid restriction for whatever reason, you should definitely make sure you're drinking enough throughout the day.
And on a side note, the soup, if you eat that as a snack, have a little bowl of soup, that has a hydrating effect as well. So it has a dual purpose.
Yep.
That's a good one.
Well, if you're a sun worshiper who doesn't use suntan lotion, theoretically, you shouldn't be deficient in vitamin D, assuming that you expose enough of your body to the sun every day. Then theoretically, you shouldn't be deficient in vitamin D. Although I'm hoping that people are not sun worshiping without sunscreen for a considerable amount of time, because that's a bad idea in the long run in terms of skin and skin cancer. But your body should, I mean, as you get older, your body's ability to make vitamin D does diminish a little bit. So sometimes when you're older, that could be an issue. But it's usually, like I said, the amount of time in the sunscreen that could be the biggest blocker.
It has to do with location, where you're living. If you're in Florida, for instance, right there she is. You actually are there is more sunlight that's going to actually get through to produce the vitamin D. But in the northern areas where we are, you're not going to produce it as much. And as Devora said, if you're wearing an 8 or above sunscreen, which you should be doing, you're not going to get the vitamin D. But what's happening is that doctors now are taking vitamin D levels because they're discovering how important it is not to be deficient in vitamin D. And I can tell from personal experience that I was deficient in vitamin D because I'm a very fair skinned person and I have to wear a lot of sunscreen. And I took the supplements, and when I went back to get my blood work done within the year, it was all corrected, completely corrected. So it is something that you can do through supplementation.
Okay.
There are a few more questions in the chat still.
Oh, Shannon, you see that? Hold on.
Ah, yes, of course. Decaffeinated versus caffeinated drinks. Caffeine can be dehydrating. So it is important to drink decaffeinated drinks as much as possible throughout the day. I'm not going to tell you you cannot drink your cup of coffee in the morning if your doctor says that you can. But I will tell you for the rest of the day, you should be drinking drinks that are not with caffeine in them, such as just pure water, of course, seltzer, unflavored seltzer, or flavored seltzer, teas that are herbal teas that don't have any caffeine in them. So that they have a better hydrating effect.
I see a question here about echinacea. I don't know a lot about the nutraceutical. I do know that I'm not even 100% sure that there's definitive research that it even necessarily works in shortening a cold. There's, thought that perhaps it can have an effect on fighting a cold and helping with your immune system, but I don't think that there's 100% definitive research that is so. And I think there's a lot of different ways in which it can be prepared and sold that I mean, I don't know. I would have to research that more to know for sure, but I haven't seen anything definitive. I don't know. Have you seen anything definitive on echinacea? No. Okay. So I'd have to look, but I haven't seen anything on that. Vitamin D, actually it's a fat soluble vitamin. So you need to have, you should take it with food. It's more likely to be absorbed if you're eating something that has fat in it. Vitamin D and calcium, vitamin D is necessary for like calcium absorption. I'm not sure they have to be taken at the same time. I think it just means that in order to have effective absorption, you want to be not deficient in the D for the calcium, but I don't believe they have to be taken at the same time, literally. But vitamin D is usually absorbed better if it's taken with food, particularly food that has some kind of fat in it. Okay.
Any other questions? Nope.
Thank you so much, ladies, and thank you to all of you for joining us. This was really informative, and it was really a great session and a great follow-up also to, it was a great session in its own right, and it was also a great follow-up to the Rabbi's Health series. So thank you very much. I will unmute everybody now so we could all thank you.
Say goodbye.
Say goodbye.
you. Thank you very
Love.
much.
Thank you.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you. Great job, Shan.
Well done,
Hi from
guys.
sunny Florida.
Instead of
Have some hummus
Sunny
now.
Florida.
Thank
We're having
you.
hummus.
Thank
you
very much.
Calories.
much.
you can still